Welcome back to day 120 of our chess journey to 1500 ELO on chess.com. Well, 120 days, 1/3 of a year, well, almost, and it's been quite fun so far actually. We've been climbing, we've had some losses, as is to be expected, because today is a full month, or well, it's 30 days since last time. At the end of today's video, we'll be going through some stats, like we did at day 90, after which one of you guys came with a suggestion of looking at stats every month, once every 30 days. So please do give some feedback if you guys would be interested in seeing those kind of statistical updates every month or not. Anyways, let's just jump ahead into our game and get started today. I am raring to go as per usual. We get Ronnie DM from Germany. Or no, is it Germany? No, is it Belgium? No, yeah, it's Belgium. Ooh, I recovered it there. I saved myself. It was not, in fact, Germany. This is a system I'm not familiar with. This English defense here, which is transposed into an English opening. This kind of B6 system is new to me, but I think we'll just be developing normally. Could come up here first. We can't quite occupy this diagonal now because of the bishop. We could come here though, which I think we'll do. And now we're apparently in a ratty opening, and we're in a queen's pawn opening, English defense. It's just all over the place, I guess. Could we come here? It's kind of weird today, the mouse. I'm pressing the button, but sometimes it seems to just kind of not work, but it's only on the right click button, so that's not all that bad. Could play this, and what do we play against this? Do we just take and get this kind of a position? I think so. Because, or well, this is played. The knight is pinned. So well, of course, we could come up here and threaten the bishop. What happens here? I guess here we could come and play a3. We might even play a3 here immediately and allow this. But is this good or is it bad for us? I think it might not be bad actually, because you see a3 takes, and once this plan is in action, we can take here and we remain with pawns like this. So honestly, let's just come up. Shouldn't make a world of difference. At least I'm not hoping so. Obviously here this pawn could get targeted, but it should not be a massive issue, I think. Our opponent here keeps developing. We could come out here and pin the knight. Quite typical move. Probably not bad. We're still a ways from castling here, but well, 3 moves I guess. Is this annoying? It could hit this. So let's say we come out here, then the knight can't jump in, which might be good. Let's say this is played. We could come here. This knight can't get hit, I think. So we might see developing of this knight, or maybe this, after which takes. We could come here. The knight might come out. Yeah, I think it looks like an okay position. This might be played as well. But we see d6 in fact. Okay. Might indicate our opponent might want to play for e5. Not quite sure. They're keeping their options flexible. I think g3, and I think I prefer taking this diagonal here and countering this bishop instead of going here, although it keeps an eye on this pawn. It doesn't feel like the best idea to me, at least. I think my reasoning is the bishop here gets kind of trapped behind our stuff, although it could steer down here, which might be good. Well, now we did commit to this setup. This and this would have probably worked as well, but we'll just go for this. As I mentioned, hopefully it doesn't make all that much of a difference. Now if this is played, we can't come here. Or can we? No, not quite. I was looking at some stuff here, but it doesn't quite do a whole lot. We just end up losing a piece. So if this is played, now our bishop here has to come back. So maybe this was bad. G3 rather was bad, because it disallows us from playing with the bishop here, and it kind of maybe gets stuck behind our pawns on dark squares. The pin is broken. Now the knight could jump in here, kind of forking the bishop and the pawn, which I don't think we want. But let's say this is played, knight jumps in. Only way to defend both would be, or well, we could come back, or we could move our queen here. Castles, knight jumps in. Honestly, this might just be okay. And if takes, we don't have the bishop here, but we do still have something to play for. Yeah, let's go for it and not spend too much time. I was scanning for options. There might have been some. Might have preemptively moved the bishop back, for example. Didn't opt for it here. Now, as I did mention, we have this and we have this. Might want to get the bishop back first, I think. It might not make a big difference, but here if takes, we connect our rooks. And there is no annoying stuff here forcing us back, and yeah, basically being annoying. This knight might want to take here, opening up the bishop. The bishops will probably be traded off. So let's say this is played, takes, and we'll be playing from this position. No bishops, one pair of knights. I think we'll go for it, because I don't see no, I don't see a whole lot for us up here, or well, maybe we could do something there. It's just in this position, this pawn can get hit, and as for how we would defend it, well, the queen here occupies the backward square for the knight, so we would have to come out here, and that might invite some complications. So let's go here instead. We trade bishops, and now essentially we're playing in a quite equal position. There is just this imbalance here. Our opponent has a slightly more healthy pawn structure. The queen comes out here. I don't think this was the right move. Just gives us time to get off of the diagonal for free, so there is no check later on. Could come out here with tempo. Maybe force the knight back if this is played. Well, that's a commitment, I guess. Might create some holes and weaknesses. Otherwise, the knight has to block and be forced back. So yeah, I think I like this. This might be played. Doesn't quite convince me though. Seems dangerous. There we could try to break the center open and target the king. So what do we do about our pawns here? E3 sounds and seems logical. Probably not bad. It's just we still have light squared big weaknesses. C6 is played. Let's see, can we push a pawn here? Let's say we go here, for instance. Takes, 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 doesn't quite work. This is pinned, but now we don't have enough pressure on d5. e4 might be strong here, looking for this, but once the king castles, I think it doesn't quite work. Was looking at this, or maybe this, I guess. Let's say castles. We could go here, but then we trade pawns, and I don't see a whole lot of follow-up for us. We're just there with pawn islands, which I don't love. So, might not push the pawns, but I don't necessarily mind moving on over here and grabbing this file. I've selected the F rook here because this rook probably has something to do down here behind the pawn, and it's not an open file or a semi-open file even, but there might still be something to do there. This, I guess I just calculated it, doesn't do a whole lot. Do we come up here perhaps? Just connecting our pawns. F3 doesn't quite work. Oh, well, it could be played, but it seems weakening. So what I'm doing here is I'm trying to come up with an idea here for a plan in the position, because I don't quite know what to do intuitively here. This knight could always jump in if our knight moves and kind of have size on a whole lot of stuff. We don't have easy access down here. We could start pushing like this and playing against the king, moving our king up here in some instances after playing f3, and just going for a king attack like this. Honestly, it's probably not bad here. The thing is, I don't see a whole lot of plans here for us if we want to play for something concrete, unless we go for a more aggressive option like this. And just in general, I guess, it grabs space, and it's one of those moves referred to as typical Alpha Zero moves, I think, which was not played all that much before, but it's become typical in recent years, as far as I'm aware at least. The knight jumps in. Well, there is no threat here, or here, or here. Can't come here. So I don't see what the knight does concretely here, at least. Could come up here and hit the pawn, but this might just do nothing. This doesn't do a whole lot, seems stupid. Opens up fe3 for the knight. Here. You know what, maybe coming here might be good, because it might allow us to play this, which might be in our best of interests. Because if we get this, and now if we can take like this, it would be good. But if we have to double up, we don't want this structure here at all. Seems a bit too weak for my liking. This pawn could of course be pushed, but if it is, we can undouble our pawns, which I don't think is going to be bad at all. Although this pawn is, of course, is somewhat of an asset. In the long term, it might not quite feel like an asset. Just have to evaluate here, takes, and this pawn might become a target for the rooks. How do we defend it from the rooks? Here, well, honestly, we don't even have to take here. We do not have to take. We could just move the knight. Could come in here even and target the queen, but that's just going to give our opponent a free move to move out of the way of this pin here, or skewer, so maybe not. So if this is played, first of all, this is what I don't love, because it hits our knight, and it might allow this pawn here to get targeted. What would our best idea here be? Probably not coming in here. Seems a bit aggressive. The move here is played. I think we might just drop back initially here, and then resolve the tension when we so desire. Just want to see if we have a better maneuver. This could land us here, which might be interesting. This pawn could be weak. And in some lines, I think we might have ideas down here with the queen. This might be played. We would be coming back here and opting to get into e5. This, and we have this, so it should not be an issue. There might be some funny move here at some point, like playing queen to a5. Currently, it's not the best, I think, but let's say we want to add pressure here. This would be to our benefit. Breaking apart the pawns, getting our rook in, and trading a queen for a queen. Just kind of identifying the ideas in the position here to make myself more aware of our options, or potential options at least. The knight here is on the wrong color to work together with the queen. And the queen has been cut off by its own pawns. Is this ever a move? Honestly, it might work. But here I think I'd like to take here. But now we get h6. And here we should only have one real move. We don't want to go to h3. So let's come here. Keeping this idea alive, as the pressure here might become quite good for us in the long term. But the knight, though, is kind of controlling this as well, so we'll have to see what we do. I'm taking note here, the knight is almost trapped. But we don't quite have the means of trapping it just yet. If this is played, we might even come on and ignore it and play something like this. Or maybe not, because this is a move. Because otherwise we could get the rook here, I thought, and stare down at this, but this even just becomes a fork and not the best of our interests. Well, we could come here, I guess, and target this. So if the rook is taken, we get the queen, and the line might keep on going there. But we'll see what happens when it happens. So the queen slides over. Still, I do not think we want to take, because this leaves us exposed on c3. So instead, what do we opt to do? Obviously here our rooks are our least active pieces. They're not doing a whole lot. We could move the queen back and push the pawn, which would probably just result in equal trades. It's just if the queen moves, this pawn is in fact hanging. Now let's say we play this for example, and we get this. That's probably okay. Let's come up, I guess. Maybe prepare to double rooks. We're keeping our options open here, doubling on this file or on this file. We don't close down the diagonal here, and we don't allow this to come with a threat against our rook. Five and a half minutes to 9. We're not in the driver's seat in terms of time, but we're not quite bleeding yet either. Still, this knight, it looks like it does a lot, but I don't think it does. Here, I guess we take. And I think this favors us, to be honest. This opening up doesn't do a whole lot. This pawn is never going to be lost. And now we just keep our eyes on this potential weakness on c6. Our queen is active. This looks like it drops a pawn, does it not? This, and this. So I'm pretty confident here this is a blunder. I'll just have to double check. If we take, then what? There is no in-between move here because of takes or takes. Let's say we get this and this. Then I guess we just take here even, and maybe drop the queen back. Yeah, so I'm pretty confident this is a free pawn. If the rook is not taken, could get it to c5, and we might have some decent pressure here against the pawn. If the knight moves, I mean, the pressure just keeps adding on, which looks to be in our favor. So what does our opponent do here? I don't think there is a tactical way of winning the pawn back. I guess it's just a matter maybe of getting a slight positional edge in return, if it's at all possible. If we trade down, I guess we just trade down. Let's say this is played. I think we would respond with this. Then takes. And I think this looks quite promising. Or well, if this is played, and we play here, no, this is not playable. Was a bit worried for a second, but now I was thinking of a check down here, but there was no way of doing so. Okay, the queen moves up, might be looking to push the pawn perhaps. I think my intuition here tells me to, or well, it doesn't actually. My intuition here genuinely tells me to come to b7 and grab the file. Here, this might be played, but if it is, we still get in, I think. If takes, oh no, this pawn hangs. Yeah, that's potentially an issue in some positions. So how about coming here, blocking off the diagonal for the queen, while threatening to take the pawn, which was my initial thought. I just kind of complicated it. I think this might just be easier and better. If this is played, we just take the pawn. This is no worry. Here, and we come back, and we would be up 2 pawns. Most likely here, we'll see this. Defending the pawn. This could be played as well, but here at least we should be in the driver's seat. We could quickly shift on over to the a file as well, should we want to. This might even be a good move already. Applying some pressure, but I would like to get our last rook into the game here. At least that's what I'm thinking. First of all here. This is played. Well, the pawn has to be defended, of course. If we come here and this is played, you can't come in here. But still, I think this is going to be a good move regardless. This doesn't work. No, we have better control here. We could take. And yeah, we control this. Let's come on over. I'm expecting this and probably this, or alternatively, our opponent might want to trade here, but if they do, let's say they go here and takes, and the pawn is ours. But now I think this might be a slight mistake, because as I did mention, once the knight jumps back here, we have this adding pressure. I think our opponent wants to jump in here and target this, but if we come here and this happens, we have this first. And the queen is attacked. This is still defended. here. Let's see if this is played. No, it just loses material. So let's come up here. I'm pretty confident this looks good. There is this. Does it do anything? Here I think... No, actually this might be annoying, in fact. Yeah, this looks quite annoying because here and this threatens our queen as well. Or well, actually, oh no, this is played instead. But as I mentioned, here takes, if takes. I guess it's not all that trivial actually. But I think our hand is forced there anyways. We'll have to take. This could be played actually. I did not see it until now. We did open up this diagonal now after all. Or well, this doesn't work because we could have taken here. If we go here, there is this, this, and this. And we are even in material. But what happens if we go here, perhaps? If we get pinned, then there is this, which looks annoying, because if takes, we have this, and we should be quite fine. So here I'm leaning towards taking the rook here. So let's just go on ahead and do it. This keeps this defended, but of course, as I mentioned, there is this pawn down here. If we're given one move, I would like to come here. I didn't quite see this fork, hoping it's salvageable, although it might very well not be. Can we generate a threat here? I don't think we can. I don't see a concrete way of threatening our opponent. Or no, this works, I think. Because if takes, we take here. Yeah, this should... No, but then our knight is lost, so we have to come here. No, of course not. But this actually does not work. Because we just lose the full knight. Oh, that's unfortunate. And here, and this is played. I think we're just losing material here. Seems we're losing materials. Let's try to do the best of, or make the best of it, I guess. But this pawn and the rook will be lost for a knight. And this will be hanging. Oh, wow. This is just horrendously bad. But if that's the case, then this might be our best option. So we don't lose both. The knight is lost, but this might be giving us better chances than what we did just have. Definitely not ideal. Only way here of not losing material would be if our opponent takes, and we take with the rook. That's not going to happen. More than likely, our opponent will take the knight here. And I guess we have to play down a piece. Okay, so what do we do now? Guess I'd like to play here. We do have a c-pawn after all. We might want to push for a passed pawn and potentially a queen to create some chances of counterplay here. If this is played, pushing the pawn becomes difficult because of our lack of pieces. But let's say this is played. We could go here, but the knight could jump in front here and kind of blockade our c-pawn. If this is played, do we not just have this now, I guess? I'm really hoping to get this pushing. Get the pawn rolling to create some ways of coming back into the game here. 2 pawns for a knight. Actually, this might not be the worst of all positions, but if we just trade down all the stuff, it might get bad, I think, if the pawns are not quite pushed enough. Our king isn't quite centralized, so that's going to have to be taken into account. This pawn here is pushed. How about dropping back? But then we don't support the pawn push here, while it's supported by this pawn though. So maybe this just works. Still, the rook can't come here because it would be lost with a check even, and it would be undefended. If this is played, I guess we come back to b4. Our idea here is playing c5, probably e3. If this is played, we might just have this kind of a structure. Okay. I guess we come here. Now, if this is taken, we take the knight. Can't go here, can't go here. Can't go here, so probably it has to come back, and then we finally push the pawn. And once the pawn here is locked in on c5, we might be able to free up some pieces to play elsewhere, or maybe move our king over and start to threaten trading of material, and maybe getting a queen. But anyways, we'll start off by pushing. This is likely to be played, although this might be played first as well, to kind of complement that move. We can't come here because of discoveries along the diagonal. The knight jumps even further back. Guess we'll connect the pawns here first. This might be played. We should have maybe grabbed the file first. Might have been a slight mistake not to. So how about coming here first? This pawn doesn't need any help now, so we could come here and threaten this, and grabbing the file. This could be played though, kind of taking away this square. So we'll have to see what we end up doing. Could come here and try to force the queen away. might be an option. 22 seconds. Our opponent is down to 2 minutes. But because of this pawn here, I'm actually thinking we might have decent chances despite being down a piece. Most likely the knight will get onto d5. And we'll have to see how we respond. If all this falls off the board, we're likely to lose this pawn to the knight, which would not be ideal. Here, I guess coming in over here might not be good actually, because it opens up this diagonal, but currently we control this. So it's not bad for the time being. Now we can't come here or here because of the knight. Might be a position where we're able to play e4. Now the knight comes back here even, intending to play this, so I guess we'll just come back, not allow those ideas. The king move I thought was not all that good either way. So what is our way to victory here? I would love to have the quickest king here in the endgame and just kind of get on over here and have 2 pawns rolling, although it doesn't seem all that likely. This seems to be on the agenda. Let's double here, I think. And this becomes better for us. At least that's what it seems like to me. Takes, takes. This can't be played. The pawns will be broken apart, but we'll be up a 3rd pawn. Or actually, this might have been bad. This is played now. I just have to play a move here. But now if this is played, we have d5. And we have 2 connected passed pawns. Could play this maybe. Our opponent does not have control over b8, at least not to the degree where they can get a piece there to the open file. Now I think I'd like to look into getting this. First, killing off the squares for the knight. Could come here. Wouldn't be ideal. Ooh, 1 second. But now this could be played. Or this could be played, which is quite bad as well. I overlooked an important tactic, quite easy as well. Now we can push here to get the forced passed pawns, and this is horrendously bad as well. Oh, it's a timeout, but I think it's a first mate. Yeah, it's a mate in 1. So I'll go ahead here and say thanks for the game. to our opponent, Ronnie DM from Belgium. Played a good game, and I'm curious to see how we should have played differently. So the game review says we played with 71.6. Our opponent played with 76.2. The graph here seems to indicate we had a decent position, had a winning position for a while until we didn't, and from here we kind of never quite recovered, but we almost did at some point. So we did have a few inaccuracies, mistakes, a miss, and 2 blunders. Our opponent did not have as many, and thus they had a better rating here. Let's just click our way through here and have a quick look. This was all good stuff. I wasn't familiar with the opening. Apparently this was not ideal. Should have went here, which I did consider, as I mentioned. Here, this is actually best. Well, either way, the difference is not all that massive. Saving time, I think, becomes better at some point, and apparently this is okay. What did I miss? Oh, this seems a bit too computerish, right? We're just sacking a pawn. So, well, this was good still. It's quite equal. Had some good moves. Good moves. This was inaccurate. Should have apparently played here. I didn't love this. Thought it leaves us with a bit too many weaknesses. But I guess we can always take here, perhaps. Let's say this is played. I guess we're supposed to keep the tension. Well, I wouldn't have played this. It makes not... Yeah, it doesn't make a lot of sense to me. This move was playable. I mean, of course, there is the pin, but what does it accomplish afterwards? The difference is not massive, doesn't change the position a whole lot. Wait. Yeah, okay. Well, decent, and here is the mistake. This was fantastic. So why did we lose the game? Oh, this was our mistake. So what's the difference? How did I miscalculate here? The computer gives this. And here, or I guess we're up 1 pawn. I think I miscalculated here and thought it would be equal in pawns. And here, I guess, we're just playing for a lead. This doesn't work because of the fork, I guess. Let's say king here. And we just get in, and yeah, this seems quite comfortable of a position, or it seems like one. But no, this was not good, and as the evaluation indicates, we never quite recovered. But we did get to a position of almost recovering, I guess, which appears to have been here, was our best chance of coming back. Because if takes, and then what? I guess we're able to walk up here with the queens off the board. I guess is how I read it. Here even, defending f2. Maybe threatening a repetition. Does this not lose a pawn? Yeah, it does. So something has been a blunder here. Or maybe not. Anyways, it didn't quite happen. We played on like this, and this just blundered the game entirely. I just missed this. Our opponent did as well. For a couple of moves. I will try to go here. Well, there was a knight there, but this still just blunders mate in one, or it doesn't blunder, it was forced, but there was no way out after the blunder. So well, I guess that's going to be our game for today. And now, for the big review, I guess we'll go into the insights now, because I have a diamond membership for the time being, because of the whole Nitro and very well Discord and chess partnership, giving us 30 days of diamond membership through Discord. So we'll be going into, I guess, last year. To get all of our games, we can't choose 120 days. Well, apparently we can. Okay, start date 1, 2, 3, 4. Let's go like this, I think, and we should. Oh no, I picked the wrong year even. There we go. Did that switch to 2024? This is not reflecting well on me. I'm just getting confused here. Let's just pick the last 1 year. We'll have a few games which I have not played during this journey here, but hopefully it doesn't affect the stats too much, because we have quite a large sample size at this point. So currently it seems we have won 54% of our games. 54% win rate is quite good. 6% drawn and 40% of the game lost. 80.1% accuracy. I think I'm quite happy there. Seems to have fluctuated a bit between good and bad days. And recently it's kind of been down in a dump, but let's hope it comes up in not too long of a time. Accuracy by move order, well, the first moves I'm hoping are quite accurate. Our least accurate moves appear to be quite a bit out of the opening here. Around move 13 is our lowest point, and towards the end game, as I might have guessed, it comes back up. It's quite similar for the colors. And how do we fare versus similar rated opponents? We're slightly above the curve there, by about, it seems to be like 7 to 10% maybe. So that's quite nice. As for our opponent ratings, started out here, and this I think is the section of the graph where we should not be looking, because this was played between me and a friend and some games prior to starting the journey. So I guess this might be our sample size, in which case we won our games against 1,000 rated opponents, we won against 1,100, and all of our games against 1,200 as well. Started losing against 1,300 rated opponents, had quite close to a 50% win rate. Here we had a higher win rate against 1400s, and we have yet to win a single game against 1500 or higher rated opponents. 1 draw and 8 losses against 1500. Might actually even be a mental thing at that point, because I don't think it should fluctuate that much between 100 points. But I guess once people get to 1500, it kind of becomes our journey, and each game we play against a 1500 kind of symbolizes whether we're able to get to that rating or not. In a sense, whether we're able to win against players of the rating we wanted to get to. For our game results, we won typically by resignations and checkmates. and we've had a few abandoned games and a few timeouts. How does this compare to other players? Quite normal. We are blue here, drawn by insufficient material, but this I think becomes quite inaccurate because of the sample size. Our draws, this is what becomes a bit inaccurate because we haven't drawn that many games, but as for our losses, checkmate, timeout, and resignation. Ideally, the timeout would be at 0, or as close to it as possible, but we have in fact lost some games by timeout, such as today. This, I don't quite know how they define the games in one category or not, but let's have a quick look here. Smooth games, that's not a massive sample size, not the balanced games either. Sharp games, 6 games in total. Apparently intense games are quite well in our favor. Intense is defined as a serious game, but what does serious mean? Can we press? No, we can't see further. I guess we'll just have to accept we're apparently well performed, or performing well in intense games, whatever intense means. Sudden games, does it mean a sudden change? I lost by a mistake, which I think is quite positive to have a high win rate in, because I think it means we tend to win from our opponent's mistakes more than they win from our blunders. Wild games, well, not quite my kind of style, considering I prefer typical positional chess, so this makes sense. Giveaways, we've given away a few wins, that's for sure, at least recently. Accuracies by game type, balanced games at 90%, but it's 2 games, so it doesn't actually say a whole lot. But you can see the difference here between intense and sudden games and the wild and giveaway games. Changes quite a lot. As for the game phases, typically they end in the end game for us. And quite a few in the middle game as well. It's been a while since a game has ended in the opening. The middle game is, as expected, I guess, our weakest point. The openings, you kind of know where to go when you've seen the ideas before, and the end games are more simplified. The middle games, down at 76, ideally this is where our accuracy goes up. Results for games that ended in the opening, well, we won both. And here, the middle game wins and losses, we are at 45.9% wins and 55% losses. And back to the end games again, where we typically tend to perform better. So once again, the middle game section appears to be where we should improve, which I think might be a matter of, among other things, maybe doing more puzzles and preparing and improving some tactical sight to spot more tactics for us and for our opponents, and quicker as well. So, how well did we perform in our openings? Our most played opening, the Queen's Gambit, has given us quite a good time. Won about 2/3 of the games. This as well seems to be quite good. The King's Indian, not quite so. But typically for white, it appears we do best in 1d4 here, in the normal Queen's Gambit. And apparently the King's Indian, the old Indian, might have to study some Indian theory here so as not to lose the games once we get into those positions. How about black? The Sicilian seems to be a double-edged sword. We're winning some and we're losing some. The Alpine is okay. Here a couple of London games, Queen's Gambit. And most of this stuff seems to be okay. How about the mastery? It's the average number of book moves we play. Apparently 4.1. And for black, it's 4.2. So let's take a look at the stats down here. For the Queen's Gambit. Oh, how is it sorted? Like this. Apparently we leave the book first, 60% of the time. Ideally this would be lower, but I have not quite had time to study the theory yet. Hopefully once school settles down a bit for me and I get ahead on my schoolwork, get time to look at the openings again, this here, the numbers will hopefully go down across the board. And we will hopefully be out preparing our opponent. But in the Sicilian though, we appear to be crushing it in terms of book moves. So I think this is quite optimistic, because this means almost 3/4 of the time our opponent leaves the book moves first, and the Sicilian. As for tactics, found versus missed forks here. We found most of the forks, but not a pawn and or a knight fork here. How about similar players? It seems we're slightly higher here, at least from how I read the curve. So how about pins? Been seeing quite a lot of the pins as well, but missed a couple here. Seems to be quite similar to other players, although apparently we do better in terms of bishops because we've found all of the pins. Mates, this is not as ideal. Would have liked for this to be as close to 0 as possible. How do we compare? Still within margins. So how about hanging pieces? Pawns left hanging 23 times. A helicopter is coming in here, so I'm hoping it's not too loud. I live next to the hospital after all, so there is a helicopter landing pad here. Hung 5 knights, 6 bishops, 4 rooks and 2 queens. Whoops. Not ideal, but considering the sample size of games, it might not be the worst. 3 pieces. Luckily, we find them most of the time. How about other players? It seems mostly we're slightly above the curve compared to, I guess, players of similar ratings. Yes. It's just rooks we don't spot as often. At least relatively speaking. As for the move qualities, the distribution here, it's not horrendously bad, I think, but I think recently those percentages here for inaccuracies, mistakes and blunders have went up a bit more than I would have liked to. Ideally the graph here would be more top heavy, although it's not. As for piece colors, we make more blunders as black, more mistakes, but slightly more inaccuracies for white. Apart from that, it's quite similar. As for brilliant moves, it's not surprising to see we get more brilliance as black because we play a more tactical position or opening, namely the Sicilian, when we play black. How about compared to others? Quite similar in terms of brilliance. We're up here, which is a positive side. We have more best, excellent, and good moves. Slightly fewer book moves. But this might also be because our games don't end as early as others, so we get time to play more non-book moves. As you've seen, most of our games end in the end game, which might not be the case for others. Fewer inaccuracies, mistakes, and blunders, and fewer missed wins, so that's positive. Move quality over time, though. It's getting less green as we get down into the middle game here and towards the end game, I guess. But the green section of the graph at least looks to be quite optimistic. Moves per piece. I don't know what this tells us actually. I guess if we have a high queen percentage, it might not be ideal, at least not in the opening, for example. Yeah, I don't quite know what the numbers here mean, but how about a comparison might be interesting. But honestly, it seems like we're quite similar. We just move the rooks a bit more, and we don't have as many moves with the queen. And considering we play more endgames, moving the king more also does make sense. As for the accuracy per piece, we're slightly higher than others in our rating range. We play more accurately with the knights, with the bishops, with the rooks, and with the queen, all by about 5%. For king moves, we're quite similar, quite close to others. Games where we castled in the opening, middle game, and no castling. Typically, we castle in the opening or middle game. I'm surprised to see 28 games of no castling, although they might have ended before we got the chance to do so. Not quite sure. Results when we castled during different phases of the game. The openings, well, this seems quite similar. It doesn't show a big difference as for the times of the day. Accuracies in the morning, not quite there. Unsurprisingly, I'm not much of a morning person after all. But otherwise, the accuracy seems to be kind of floating around 81%, which I'm quite happy with. Results by time of day, quite similar. This seems close. And this, it's difficult to tell with 2 games, although it doesn't surprise me I lost in the morning. By weekdays, apparently, actually quite surprisingly, the weekends seem to be the weakest days, apart from Sundays. Sundays, Tuesdays, might just play more on Sundays and Tuesdays than if those are the lucky days. Results by day of week. Tuesdays, 12 wins and 4 losses. I guess Tuesdays are our ideal days. Well, of course, it's difficult to say with such a small sample size, but it's just an interesting find at least. As for the geography here, where have we played players from, I guess it would be. We've played from, I guess, players from a lot of the world, but I'm curious to see how that changes as we go on. But I won't drag this on for a whole lot longer here. I'm hoping this was interesting at least. Please do tell me if it was a bit too long at the end, if it was interesting, or if it was entirely uninteresting as well. The video is longer today because of this, so also do tell me if it might be ideal to split this into 2 sections next time, or 2 videos, so as to avoid having such a long video and it being quite an intimidating click. Either way here, thanks to our opponent today. Thanks for watching to the end of the video. This has been our game for today, and I hope to see you all tomorrow. Bye bye.